What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your source for everything in the world of video games. Now, you can always be a part of our show by going to insidethegame.ca or joining us in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and be the highlight of the week. Now, we just wrapped up our Big Brothers and Big Sisters charity stream, The Big Game. Yep, 24 games in 24 hours, but it's not over yet. You can still help by donating over at insidethegame.ca, clicking on that banner, and it'll lead you where you need to go. Now, coming up on this week's show, here it is. It's the rundown.
But at the same time,
it's good though.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a game that looked really good even on the Switch. So, I mean, you can lend it to the developers. They did a really good.
Now, once you turn level 50, there are many legendary perks to pick from.
Well, guys, we see a lot of genres come and go, and one of late has been the games of service model. It's definitely had its bumpy roads. Scott, what are your thoughts on the take of this little genre and the future it holds?
And that's how you really get the information about Darcy. And it's the phone calls that you pick up between her and her brother Lucas of trying to find the Brotherhood of the Assassins in London.
Well, it looks like a great show this week, so let's get started as Cory and I venture back into something we previewed a while back. And now it's made its way on over to the Switch. So let's check it out. It's Dreamscaper. Cory, we're slipping away to a Dreamscape. Cory, you and I are back once again with Dreamscaper. We did a preview on this game over on Steam, and now we got handheld on with the Switch that we're checking it out this time. It's out now in full release, too. It's not just a preview. We're actually scoring this one up. Yeah, man. Dude, what'd you think of Dreamscaper?
Well, I mean, we've got this roguelike game, and honestly, when we first checked it out just over a year ago, I think we were both really drawn into the visuals and the audio. I mean, we're big on that for most games, but this game did it so well. And playing on the Switch, I mean, we're not getting maybe the image quality we're hoping for. And I feel like every time we talk about the Nintendo Switch lately, we're kind of bashing it. So I don't want to, I'm not taking points off it. It's limited to the hardware that we have. But at the same time,
it's good though.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a game that looked really good even on the Switch. So, I mean, you can lend it to the developers. They did a really good job here. It's the first thing that drew me in, and then you kind of start to understand all these different aspects of this game. I mean, we're playing as Cassidy, and we're kind of entering these dream worlds while we're also kind of living in her real life as well. And everything we do kind of intertwines in a way, whether we're making decisions and meeting new people, and that's changing and affecting our paths when we go into the Dreamscape, which is basically where all the combat happens, and we kind of are going through randomly generated rooms, and we're taking out monsters, things like that. And we have all different kinds of abilities, and we find different weapons as we go along here. But again, there's a permadeath feature here, Drew, that I've just had a very difficult time getting past. And in the preview, it was tough. And in this, in the full release, this one has also been difficult. But that's the style of these games, right? It's supposed to be punishing, but it's also very rewarding. Like, when you get through these boss fights, man, it feels really good. Like, you're like, oh man, I think I just squeaked that one out. But you get some really good rewards as you go through. I just thought they did a really good job with this one.
No, I think you nailed everything. I don't think I got anything else left to say, Cory. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Dark Souls, Demon Souls. It's not my style. Yeah. But dude, I'm telling you, Dreamscaper, I absolutely adore this game. I love this game. I thought it graphically looked awesome, even on off of handheld mode and on my TV, the big screen, it looked good. The reflections off the streets from the lighting and all the effects that they have going on with that. I did find it a little small when you put it in a handheld mode, and then by pushing on the analog stick, you can actually, or the D-pad, sorry, you can zoom in a little bit. So that makes it a little bit nicer on handheld because it is so small. But I love just the way they crafted this entire world, the story, the characters, the world building, everything here. For a game that is not my style at all, dude, I couldn't put it down. I really found myself getting up every single day. I'd grab my coffee, dude, and this is what I would turn on. And I would just sit there and grind this game. And then, what happens is you make it past the first level, you get to the second level, you die, then you go right back to the first level. I hate that mechanic. I absolutely despise it. It kind of crushes my soul every time I die, just a little bit. And it's just like, man, but you have, it's the roguelite elements, right? But then you have your materials and stuff to kind of keep going and pushing yourself forward. New weapons. Every time I go out, I find something new, and the world just seems to keep expanding and growing on me. I know physically it's not, but everything's just, because it is so randomly generated, everything just seems so fresh and new each and every time when I die. It's just, man, that dying, honestly, if I just die after I completed the one level and move into the next one, just let me start at the next level. Otherwise, I'll never complete this game, right? It's one of those things. You gotta grind and run through the whole thing without dying, and finding health isn't exactly easy. You can find it around once in a while, but man, like I went into every single room before hitting the boss fight so that I could find any health bars whatsoever, just kind of these like little tubes, more or less,
little vials
to use those, right? And man, it's a tough game, but it's one of my favorite games to play this year.
Yeah, Drew, like you said, there's a lot of traveling between the rooms. Like you're running around, you're trying to get your vials of health and just, you know, take out as many enemies and get as much loot as you can before you go to these boss battles. And one thing about some of these games is there's a lot of backtracking sometimes, but here we can actually fast travel between the rooms, which I thought was really nice feature because, you know, it just kind of cuts out all that monotonous running around through empty rooms, and it's just makes it a lot easier to navigate, to maybe just go to the store to buy a couple things before you go to the boss room. It just really helped you kind of get through these levels a little bit quicker as you kind of cleared them out. But the one thing I really kind of noticed as you played through is that a lot of the enemy types were fairly, similar as you go through the different worlds. I mean, they were all kind of the same. You get the, same 4 core types of enemies, and then, there's slight variations as you go through, but for the most part, they were the same. So some of the combat did feel a little repetitive, but every, new weapon and stuff you pick up has its own animations. So it's it gives you all that variety in there too. So I'm not knocking it too much. But if we got to score this one, Drew, what do you think you're going to give Dreamscaper?
Dude, I really loved it. I thought Cassie's character was cool. The art style, I absolutely fell in love with it. I thought it was fantastic. And for a game that's not even my genre, I would play this every single morning. Unless I said I grab my coffee. Dude, and this is what I'm playing. I'm grinding this game out. Absolutely loved it. For me, 8.5. What about you?
You know what? I'm almost right there with you. I think fans of the genre are going to love this game. It has a little bit of everything for everybody. I mean, we got good combat. There's a really interesting story. There's lots of upgrading to do. And there's lots of customization. The audio was amazing. I mean, it just puts you in that dream world, man. I never thought I'd feel so relaxed playing a roguelike game in my life. I got to give this one a 7.5.
Nice.
Art style and audio will draw you into this action roguelite. With lots of upgrades, unique weapons, and abilities, there's countless ways you can play through this one, but you better watch out for that permadeath.
Alright, this week I'm going to explain to you why Funky Duds, the legendary perk in Fallout 76, is such a great thing to have at an early on stage while playing Fallout 76. Now, once you turn level 50, there are many legendary perks to pick from. And we're not going to say Funky Duds is the first one that you should get, and this is the best one, because again, it is more of a preference thing. If you are a player who doesn't wear a full set of matching armor, this perk will be completely useless. But if you're like myself, who likes to have a full set of armor, this perk is a must grab at early stages. There are many types of damage in this game. We have plasma, fire, explosive, Cairo, and one of the most deadly ones is poison. There are several creatures that use poison damage. I mean, the Scorch Beast, of course, some of those use poison. The Mirelurk Queen, which is one of the tougher enemies in the game. Rad Toads, and a few other different creatures. So with Funky Duds, if you level it up even twice like I have on my character, I find that poison does next to no damage. I've upgraded all my other legendary perks as I go along, but I've always just had Funky Duds at 2 stars, and it's made my experience so much easier while fighting off these poison type enemies or while completing the daily ops that involve poison explosion. This perk in the daily ops is deadly. Enemies explode, leaving a huge pile of poison all around them, and it just destroys you. So with Funky Duds, even at 2 stars, you can complete this event with absolute ease. So if you just want to have Funky Duds for those daily op missions, it is definitely recommended. Or if you just would rather play with the other legendary perks at any time, you can swap them out for just a couple points. But that's just it, guys. I hope this helps you guys out while exploring the wastelands of Appalachia. Poison damage is one of the most deadly in this game, so definitely recommend you get this legendary perk.
Well, guys, we see a lot of genres come and go, and one of late has been the games of service model. It's definitely had its bumpy roads. Scott, what are your thoughts on the take of this little genre and the future it holds?
Well, my fear with this sort of kind of release schedule and development focus was just a worry that there was going to be lack of content, or the loss, some sort of a watering down effect of content.
Sure.
And those fears still sort of hold true to me. I don't know if there's really anything that's a very good example of what that degeneration is, but I still worry about it because as time has gone on, there's titles, and I'm gonna have to bring up Destiny. Sorry, Nate. It's, in my opinion, and I think in a large part of the fandom's opinion, the game just came out utterly unfinished. There was no raid, I believe. There's no end game part. The level cap was short, but it came out in the form of DLC and kind of updates that were laid out over a much longer time span. I said it before a couple times on the other show, but back in my day, games came out full and complete. So I have a resistance about it to that, and I think some damage to what Destiny was supposed to be.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
Well, I think, Scott, you laid it out perfectly. Destiny is a perfect example because when it first came out, it did have the raid. It took a few weeks, but that's always been their thing. They let people grind out the levels, which in vanilla Destiny, guys, you want to know grinding and just a bare bones experience? That was Destiny.
Yeah.
It was for the diehards like myself that just were just in love with the game itself. But I mean, you look at Destiny now, and a lot of people would argue that it's one of the better examples of a live service. I mean, arguably, they do charge money, which is the biggest thing. Like some companies, like Fallout 76, we've had 3 years of updates with $0 needed to spend on any DLC. Of course, there's cosmetics,
sure,
like every game has, but outside of that, I think that live service model has been pretty well. No Man's Sky, I think they're the best example. I mean, they've given us nothing but updates for 5 years and for free. I mean, in these situations, when I hear things like this is when the live service model is great. But You look at Anthem, all these promises,
I was gonna get
empty
there.
promises, right?
Yeah.
And like I was in love with that game, and I was ready for the raid that just never dropped. So I mean, it's just that thing, Scott, that you said. It's that fear. I think the live service model, like, it's like communism. It's great as an idea, but when it plays out, I'm just teasing. But you know what I mean? When it plays out, it's really hard to actually just like quench that thirst for the people that play these types of games. So I'll lead it off with that. Drew, what are your thoughts?
Overall, I think honestly it's the guys over at Ubisoft right there with The Division. The Division 2 is still continually going. It constantly has new updates, new drops, and the community is alive and well, and it keeps thriving. I think the biggest thing is the lack of content when it comes to other games. I'm gonna bring it up because it's one of my favorite games around, but Marvel's Avengers lacks content, right? They give you big content drops, but then you're kind of left out on your own after a while.
You're left hungry for months.
That's the problem, right? On a games of service, it is there for you to stick around day in, day out, day in, day out. And when you get into these bigger scoped games, the ideas are great, the landscape looks promising, but it's the lack of content to keep us around. Steve and I cover Avengers all the time. A piece of new content drops, we cover it, but then we vanish, right? Like we covered Kate Bishop, we covered Hawkeye, we covered the latest War of Wakanda, but then we disappeared. Now we're talking about getting a raid, finally getting a raid in Avengers. I'm so excited, right? Like I'm pumped, but I'm waiting. I'm not in that game every day. I'm not grinding out the dailies. I'm not grinding out the monotony of the game itself because they want you to do that. But at the same time, I can't be really bothered because there's so many other games out there that keep you going and keep you invested. But when the content drops, then I'm back in. But then I eventually will then bounce out and disappear. It's not one of those games where I sit in and go, okay, well, I gotta go hit my dailies today and then go and grind that out. It's not really it's not my kind of play style in a sense either though. So there is two sides to it, right? Are you that kind of grinding player where you want to be there, invested each and every single day? But dude, you can only do the same thing over and over and over again until you get bored stiff like I do. So short attention spans, right, need to be
it's hard, man.
appealed somehow. Absolutely. I think when a game drops, they need to have a roadmap already developed. That you can't drop the game and then say, okay, well, here's what's coming. No, because that week the game is going to be done by millions of people. You're going to be finished, and then they're starving for your game. That's like games of service that you are supposed to somehow keep us around. If you have 2 years of content already developed, I think that's what you really need to be thriving for, right? At least have a year's worth of content already done after game launches, because otherwise we're just going to vanish. The state of the games of service is kind of up in the air. Some hit it well and some don't, and you're kind of left hungry.
Dude, and I think I have to do a huge shout out to Outriders, because that came out this year, and you want to know what? This is a game, you know, it was broken, and they did work on it, and they, I think for the most part, have fixed it over a month and a half, 2 months. But when they came out and leading up to this launch, they're like, this isn't a live service game. This is a complete package. You have your end game. And you want to know what? That I just needed to throw that shout out there, because it seems like every game nowadays is some sort of live service.
No, absolutely. So. But there's lots to talk about. Hit us up InsideTheGame.ca. Let us know your thoughts. Games of service, you like them or not so much? Steve, you and I are back, buddy. We're checking out Watchdogs Legion, but with Assassin's Creed.
You know, maybe you can enlighten me about something. Why is it that time and time again the assassins are reduced to nothing? Pirates, hermits, street thugs. All these brushes with extinction, you would think you would learn from your mistakes.
Steve, you and I are fans of Watchdogs Legion. It's been a great game, man. We finished it. It had a blast. There's lots going on in the world of Watchdogs, and now we finally got the crossover we've all been waiting for since the very first Watchdogs with Assassin's Creed. Darcy, our latest assassin, is over in London hooking up with Dedsec to then overthrow the Templars who have made a return to London. Dude, you and I jumped into a brief experience with Watchdogs' latest DLC because it is essentially 2 missions. What'd you think?
Do you know what? I really liked it. Still picking off Kelly's clan.
Yeah.
You still go in there and doing bits, and there's a bit more of a cutscene near to the end of this one. I like the way they sort of link in with a strange drone that's going around that's unusual, and you have to hack it. And that's how you really get the information about Darcy. And it's the phone calls that you pick up between her and her brother Lucas of trying to find the Brotherhood of the Assassins in London. But obviously the Templars are going to try and put a stop to this. So Darcy reaches out to you, Dedsec, to try and help her find her brother and find this missing assassin's artifact. And I did really enjoy this. I do love Watch Dogs because it's one of those games that, you know, you can walk away from it and come back into it and it's still good fun.
No, absolutely. It just kind of takes off where you kind of left off, right? So it's very familiar and easy to get back into. For me, when I finally took over Darcy, what I lacked was the ability to climb like you do in Assassin's Creed, right? It's really grounded in that Watchdogs world where they have certain aspects you're able to climb, but not the free roaming climbing aspect we know from Assassin's Creed. You see a building, climb it, you're good to go. That doesn't happen here, right? So there are certain challenges that you're trying to do as you get later on and within the end of the second mission. But I was just like, oh man, I can climb that in Assassin's Creed, but I can't do that here because I'm in Watchdogs and you have to jump on a ledge and to get to the next ledge, that sort of thing. I like Darcy's character as well, but it was just a brief introduction, man. 2 missions in. So I started off, I'm sorry to say, but rest in peace, Aiden, because as I started off my mission, I lost Aiden Pierce and I have the permadeath on, so he's now dead to me. He's dead to the world of my Watchdogs. I just got him, man. I just got him, and he's gone. I was so disappointed. I was like, oh, there goes the original, and there's just no way getting him back. Eventually, though, moved into Darcy, and her character is really cool. It's got this little Assassin's Creed feel to her, but yeah, to tie in with the Watchdogs world, and you see the Templars come in too, which kind of makes me now question, where does the future lie for Assassin's Creed? That's the biggest thing now. This brief 2 mission scenario, Steve, was fun, but it left me with kind of a lot more questions in the end of where do we move forward now. And you were touching on the fact that just before we actually hit the camera button to record that they've introduced some other characters to the game as well, and they're kind of crossing the threshold of where Watchdogs 1 and 2 were, and even Watchdogs Legion, with more of a grounded aspect of just hacking. Right now we're getting into some telepathic stuff, and it's just, I don't know if that's really where I want to see Watchdogs go.
It's good introducing a new character like Mina with the power to distract other guards and people like that while you attack them. But do you really want like people with abilities in Watchdogs, as the main core of the game is actually hacking, stealthness, that kind of thing, and kind of like the GTA feel of just traveling an open world? But now, like you said, having Assassin's Creed like and Darcy is, I'm curious to see where they're going to go with the story, or is it just going to be another playable character that you can just recruit and then use just to do other missions?
No, absolutely. I think it's a cool tie-in. I'm hoping they can kind of carry on with that story. I'm hoping they get positive feedback to carry that on and move Darcy's story even further, right? Find out more of her backstory, that lore, where she comes from, why she's there, versus just a 2 little mission clip, and then that was it. They also, with the DLC, came with more stuff as well. We got some zombie mode, which I was able to check out. It was pretty cool. We got invasion, which is back again, so you can invade into other people's worlds and stuff like that. It is separate from the main game, so you can go either online to get into those aspects, or you can go into the main campaign where you're not interfered. Before, you just play the game and you would get, all of a sudden you get somebody in and he's hacking, or they are hacking your game, right? Now you have to be in the online component in order to do that, which I like that they separated the two. If I want to play single player, then let me go play single player, right? But if I want to get into the other world and get intruded by somebody else online, then that's the online component. And I think that's really cool that they were able to separate those two. But now I have just more questions about where's Darcy headed next, and where is the Assassin's Creed franchise going?
Exactly. I did have a lot of issues finding out how to start the quest.
Yes, it was awful.
Again, I'm using the internet again to sort of say, how do I know when I've started the quest? And it was basically when you finish the Bloodlines, then you actually recruit French, Mina, and obviously Aiden Pierce.
Yeah.
And after speaking to you the other day, I actually did turn my permadeath off because I've lost so many recruits over the period of playing this game, and I actually lost all of them at one point where you have to start the game again. So I did actually turn the permadeath off on this one.
Steve, obviously, overall thoughts were good. I had a great time. It's nice to see Darcy in the world of Watchdogs, and I have to recommend checking out the DLC. It's only 2 story missions, so you're not going to be there long, but it gives you a taste of what could come in the future. And I think that's a highlight for me. And seeing where also Assassin's Creed goes in next. Are we going to get a Watchdogs or a futuristic version of Assassin's Creed? Because we've all been kind of looking for that aspect a little bit more as well. You have the future parts, but then you go back into time. So I'm curious to see if they're going to change up the formula. What do you think?
Exactly. I do love this. I love the new characters. It adds to my team as well now. I've got Wrench, Darcy, and all the other characters. And I do like her abilities as well.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy this. And I think this is, again, it's a must. Like the Bloodlines, this is definitely a DLC worth checking out.
Cool.
That's all the guards down, but we need to buy Darcy more time. Scrambling the security system ought to do it.
Watchdogs Legion's Assassin's Creed crossover was a lot of fun, but short-lived. We are interested to see where the story goes on from here. With a new character, Mina, with psychic abilities, and Darcy with unique set of skills, is the perfect asset to the team.
All right, you can do this.
Alright, I'm back with North American Pro League coverage for Rainbow Six Siege. Playday 2 has come and gone, and it was chock full of some awesome matches. We actually had an upset, which is always really exciting in any game of any type. So let's get straight into the matches. The first match was an awesome one, with Team Oxygen, who had made quite a statement in Playday 1 up against Mirage on Cafe. OXG was in first place leading into this game and maintained their position after a 7-5 victory. Mirage could not stop OXG as they seemed to just have better positioning and a better shot during the one-on-one gunfights with Mirage. But I have to give credit where it's due, for Mirage was trying to pull off a lot of aggressive plays instead of just folding into the fetal position like we've seen so many times in the past with a struggling team. So Oxygen continues their winning streak and Mirage continues to meld as a team with their new roster.
Sitting on top of this diffuser, waiting, just playing shrewdly around the bomb chassis. The castle's the one there to greet him if they swing on each other, but I don't know if Dream is aware of the position. He'll walk in, air jab hits him yet again, and instead of taking that engagement, Fox A repositions, doing really well, and there it is, the OXG cleanup. Boy, oh boy, that one was mighty close, but was there really any doubt in the dying seconds of that round? 7-5 as OXG stays in first place.
So moving into match 2, we had Xset dueling Astralis on Coastline. Both of these teams got beat down pretty hard last week and had something to prove moving into today's game. Was Xset's 2 roster changes beneficial to them with the addition of Prod and MVK? Was Astralis' lack of change in their roster a bad idea? Well, after a 7-3 victory for Astralis, it was clear that they made the right call and that Xset still has some kinks to iron out with the new roster. And something to note here is that we're playing on Coastline and not Consulate. This is because Consulate, for the first time in 6 years, is no longer in the map pool. Now, I'm not saying that this is the only reason we're playing on Coastline, but we have seen Consulate through and through over the last couple stages, and to not see it in the map pool is a huge shock.
Last man alive for X-Set. He'll be able to at least get J9, but he can't hop through that without an extra skeleton key bullet, and that's also empty as well, so wasting even more time. Swings out the window. No one's going to give him a gunfight, though, until Iconic steps up, but it's 0-0, as we can see the last Astralis member running all the way towards the top of White Stairs. It's going to be a 7-3 victory here for Astralis after X-Set simply cannot deliver off of their picks early on in their rounds.
So here we are with the final matchup of Playday 2, with Space Station Gaming fighting off the Uprising Sonics. And I say Uprising because this match on Coastline was one they will not forget. The Sonics over the course of the year have progressively been getting better and better, molding as a team. If you tuned in last week, you might remember that I mentioned the fact that Rexon was plus 34 and Grixer was plus 27 going into stage 3. Numbers like these speak for themselves, and on top of that you have players like Yeti stepping up as well and coming in clutch more and more often. Then we had SSG, who were struggling at the start of the match, giving Sonics a 4-0 lead right off the hop. And the damage by that point was too severe. SSG could not come back, and by that time, there was no overtime chance as they lost 7-5.
Very low HP. Luckily enough, he'll get some insight onto the kitchen player through this busted hole. Nitro cell out. Oh no, lots of damage. Can he actually secure it? He can. Bosco will go by the wayside, but this is more than likely a round lost here for Grixer. He still has the pistol out. He's going to continue to try and fake the case here, but it's going to be a simple shot to the back for Rampy as SSG secures their very first round here in round 5.
So there you have it, guys. Just 3 matches in Playday 2, as at the end of the season, we are going to have a Playday with 5 games. So I'm looking forward to Playday 3, Playday 4, and the rest of the stage. We have some exciting matches. Dark Zero is finally going to be seen in Stage 3. Let's see what they got up their sleeve.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited for the new Wolverine game from Insomniac Games that's going to be released probably in 2023 at the earliest if we're lucky. But all we got right now is a teaser trailer, but really what's getting me so hyped up about this game is kind of all the mystery behind it right now. I mean, Insomniac Games hit Spider-Man out of the park. That game was amazing, and the Miles Morales add-on was, you know, just as good as some people thought, if not better than the regular game. But at the same time, you know, Insomniac Games is going to be making Spider-Man 2 as well. So the fact that these 2 games are in development at the same time is a little troublesome for some people. They're asking questions, wondering if this is going to be a full release game when Wolverine finally comes out, or is it going to be more of the size of like the Miles Morales add-on? There's a few questions to be asked here. I mean, there's a lot of questions to be asked, but some of the major ones about some of the, you know, big details about this game haven't really been released yet. Well, the creative director Brian Horton has actually replied to a couple of tweets on Twitter and has said that this is going to be a full-size game with a mature tone. And I mean, when we think about Wolverine and Logan, just as, you know, the movie and the story and the way that plays out is, you know, that story is darker than a lot of other Marvel characters or X-Men characters. And at the same time, I think, you know, being able to have a mature tone, especially in the video game, is gonna lend to making this game just that more immersive and kind of putting you in that nitty-gritty, you know, Wolverine style. I mean, I think this game is gonna be a ton of fun. I mean, if it follows like Spider-Man does, Insomniac Games did such a good job. I have a hard time believing this game isn't going to be a ton of fun. But at the same time, I know a lot of people are concerned just because the games are being released, you know, maybe close to each other, but also they're all in development at the same time. And that's frustrating to think about because we know how much effort it takes to put out quality games. Are they overloading themselves? But I mean, overall, the fact that we're going to be getting a full-size Wolverine game is super exciting. It's going to have a mature tone, so we'll find out, you know, how mature that really is, because they still want to sell a ton of these games, right? So they'll probably keep it still more on the lighter side of the mature tone. I don't think we're going to be getting a rated R here, but you know, it would be a lot of fun, but at the same time, they got to make their money. They got to sell their games. I'm just excited for Wolverine, probably 2023, hopefully not later. Fingers crossed.
Alright, the latest update has dropped in Fallout 76 and it's chock full of goodies. We have an entire new score sheet with some really awesome skins. I swear one of these skins is actually probably my favorite, the new Samurai Power Armor. But in addition to a new score sheet, we have all the Halloween events and costumes going around in the Fallout world yet again. So with the addition of the new spooky theme, we actually have some updates on the daily ops, which is really awesome. It's been in dire need of just a little spicing up, and it looks like we have a new area to explore and extra rewards on the weekends. But in addition to some of these updates, we have Fallout Worlds. So with Fallout Worlds, it really lets you customize your experience while playing Fallout. You have to take into consideration though that you will not be using your main character in the normal world. You will have to create an entire new character for the Fallout Worlds. If you're a Fallout First member, you can play on your own private server with up to 7 other friends. But essentially, Fallout Worlds is a modding tool, sort of. Fallout 76 has not allowed modding, and I do understand it is an online game, a sort of MMO hybrid, so I understand why they haven't fully added modding, but to see Fallout Worlds, I think this is a good step in that direction. Now with the Fallout Worlds, it looks like they have weekly updates that are happening to kind of spice up the experience. You can launch nukes wherever you want. It seems like there is a lot of fun to be had there. For me personally, I just love the core experience of every Fallout game, so I won't really be diving too much into the Fallout Worlds. But outside of that, I have a score sheet to complete and a whole new Appalachia to explore with all these goofy Halloween costumes.
Now if you've got a Switch, then I've got some awesome news for you, as Nintendo have just released the latest firmware update, the 13.0, and it now comes with Bluetooth audio support, which means you can now pair with your Switch any Bluetooth speakers and headphones. But they have stated though that Bluetooth microphones are not supported with this, and you can actually have up to 2 wireless controllers while the Bluetooth is enabled. But they also stated that the Bluetooth audio won't work when the Switch local wireless communication is running. Another cool feature with this update is it now includes Update Dock from the options under the system settings, which means that the Switch will maintain its internet connection even in sleep mode, which will allow software and add-on content to download. Another cool feature with this 13.0 update, it will actually tell you if your Switch is connected to 2.4 GHz or 5 GHz. And now they've actually added a calibrate control stick setup as well. Now this update is exactly what the Switch needed, but some people might speculate that this firmware update is a little bit overdue, especially as the Switch got released 4 years ago and now they're introducing Bluetooth audio support to the Switch. But sticking with Nintendo, who thought it would have been 20 years ago when the Nintendo GameCube got released and had such awesome games as Rogue Leader, Zelda, Wind Waker, and also Luigi's Mansion.
Is Halo stopping getting seasonal updates once Halo Infinite launches. No kidding. Yeah, dude, who didn't see this coming? Come on, really?
Well, Halo Infinite, I want to play just as much as the next guy, but I might still want to go kick it with Halo Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary. That one was...
I don't. I'm all the new and shiny. Let's go, baby. Halo developer 343 Industries has announced in a new blog post that once Halo Infinite launches on December 8th, 2021, seasonal updates for Halo Master Chief Collection will stop as the studio shifts its focus to the new title. In the post, the developer explains that keeping both games updated with seasonal updates and content offerings is not ideal for the studio. Therefore, 343 Industries is adopting a new approach. Under the new plan, Halo Infinite will receive seasonal updates, while content, feature, and stability updates for Halo Master Chief Collection will land when they're ready based on development status and studio roadmap alignment. So they're not stopping everything, Scott, for Halo Master Chief Collection, but when it comes to that seasonal special stuff, it's getting on the back burner, buddy.
Yeah, okay. So they're still going to keep the servers going. They're still going to do maintenance on it. It seems like they're going to roll things out when they're ready, so it does not have priority. But
no,
that makes perfect sense.
It does, right? It's just a part of the business. It's the nature of the business to move over to your next project and keep that afloat. You want to keep everybody invested, especially now with the multiplayer coming as a free-to-play game. Scott, that's the biggest thing too, right? Dude, it's gonna be free to play. Who are they up against? Well, right now they're gonna be up against Warzone. We knew as of yesterday, Battlefield just got delayed, which is just gonna be right on the heels then of when Halo launches. So that one, 2042, is coming out just November 19th. So that's not too far away from December 8th launch date for Halo Infinite, right? So you got to keep that up and running and keep the shift and transition moving into the next one to keep the studio afloat, keep the employees going, the servers up and running, all that stuff, right? Makes a lot of sense. It is what it is, but Halo Master Chief Collection is going to have to suffer because of it.
Oh, that's unfortunate, but I have high hopes for Halo Infinite. So I doubt I'll be disappointed.
Well, that's just it, right? Like, everybody's so pumped. We keep talking about it on the show all the time, is how excited everybody is moving into that next generation of what Halo is supposed to be, and hopefully will be, as we all anticipate the launch of Halo Infinite. And with all high hopes, right? If they achieve 343, being if they achieve what our expectations are set at, dude, this could set Halo on that whole other... Remember when we played Halo 1, 2, and 3? You know, it put Bungie on that whole other level. Now 343 takes over, and we've had some good, but we also had a little bit of bad in there in between, right? So you've had the highs and lows. So we need to get back on that high and have... Will Halo be the flagship game it once was, Scott?
I really want to believe. I don't think it's passed into obscurity quite yet. And this one might be the one that revitalizes it in the kind of younger generation of gamers. The one that didn't grow up getting Halo 2 the moment it came out, like I did. But so if they can capture a new generation with this free-to-play multiplayer thing, I think that's a great idea. They're going to try and get it into a lot of people's hands, and that will establish a lot of hype around the next content, all the past things, and then I think it'll be more of a flagship then.
Sure. No, absolutely. I think it has a chance, but I'm really curious to see if the younger generation will actually attach itself to the Halo franchise, because we grew up with Halo, right? That's the thing. We grew up, so there's nostalgia is there for it. Well, what's that?
I had a worry. What if they tweak Halo because it's free to play? They tweak it for the younger audience that really likes all the Fortnite dances and emotes. I just had a horrifying image of Master Chief doing the
floss,
Gangnam style. Oh, that's even worse.
We'll see what happens, man. I don't know. Well, that'll wrap up this week's episode. Of course, thank you for hanging out with us. And if you want to be a part of our show, just join us over at InsideTheGame.ca or our Discord, where there you can submit your clip and be the highlight of the week. This week, we have Shadow295 with some sneaky bombs going off in Destiny 2. Until next week, we'll see you inside the game.
1 minute left, my friend. Game. Very good. How does it feel to be a legend? Opponents do not know, brother. They will remember your name now.